Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. This is episode 77 of the Humble Mechanic podcast, and today we're talking about the state of the shop. So if you are new to the show or haven't watched any of the other State of the Shop episodes, this is where we sit down and chat a little bit about what's going on in the VW world right now. So this is going to be June 2015 State of the Shop. But before we get into the show, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, Rain Eater Wiper Blades. Look, we all know that seeing out of our windshield is important. Part of seeing out of that windshield is a clean windshield. So whether it's snow, rain, heck, even pollen, we need to rely on good quality wiper blades. So if you want a great quality wiper blade at a really good price, check out Rain Eater Wiper Blades at raineater.com. So first up, I think we need to talk about the MK7 Golf Sportwagen and GTI. I'm actually starting to see, I don't want to say an alarming number of issues, but quite a few issues with this newest generation. I've had two in the last week with wiring issues, both having loose pins and connectors. One was a Golf Sportwagen that was an intermittent no start. It turned out the ground wire at the shifter assembly had a loose pin, and we found that by doing a pin drag test on the entire connector. And it turned out, like I said, the ground wire was where the issue was. And it was really weird. It was one of those where you did the pin drag test and it was like, if 100% was perfect, it was maybe like 75, 80%. So we rolled the dice. I felt good enough about doing the repair to go ahead and repin that one wire, and it's been good ever since. Also, when I get back to work tomorrow, I have a GTI fully loaded up with all the bells and whistles that's having an ambient air temperature sensor issue. Again, just like on that Golf Sportwagen, there's an issue with one of the connectors right at the ambient air temperature sensor. Same thing, a loose pin. Same test, pin drag test. You know, pin drag test had always been one of those where you knew you needed to do the test, but it would rarely show anything. Lately, it's becoming one of the first steps that I've been doing because I've seen a run of loose pins in connectors. So for all you techs and folks DIYing, diagnosing and whatnot, keep that in mind. Pin drag test has really elevated up in the process of my diagnosis. We also had one with a bad turbocharger, not just a bad, but a really bad turbocharger. It was so bad that the car wouldn't start. I actually did a video on that yesterday, so I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes if you want to check out more specifically about how that turbocharger failed. We've also seen a few little knick-knacky issues here and there, nothing catastrophic. You know, a lot of people have asked me what I think about the Golf and the GTI being built in Mexico, and I don't really know that any of these are an issue because these are all components. So the turbochargers aren't necessarily built in Mexico. They may be installed on the engine, but they're not built in Mexico. So we have to look more where the part is built, not necessarily where the car is assembled. Now, when you run into things like fitment issues or fuel lines not being attached, we've seen two of those, then we can blame it on the assembly plant a little bit more than we can on just a failed component. I don't think we're at the point where I'm concerned in a very critical way, just my concern level is starting to elevate. Because at this point at my dealership, we've done one engine, 4 or 5 DSG boxes, all these other issues that I've mentioned, a couple of wheel bearings, a couple of axles, and maybe one or two, again, other little problems. So not the end of the world, but I am starting to get a little concerned. Hopefully this is just the early hiccups, and once we get through these group of problems, we'll be good to go on all the Golf Sportwagen, and GTIs. Being that it's summertime, we're seeing a run of AC compressors, mostly on the common rail TDIs. They seem to be dropping out left and right. Of course, it doesn't help that it's been almost 100 degrees for the last 7 days straight here. So people are maxing out their air conditioners, and you know, I'm one of them. But the common rail TDI AC compressors failing left and right. Usually it'll cool intermittently, or it will cool for a little while and then stop. We've also seen similar issues on the 2.5 liter, and this will be in the Beetle, in the Golf, and in the Jetta, and even in the Passat. And a little tidbit that I just found out a couple of days ago, generally what's failing in these compressors is the control valve, the electronic portion of the compressor. You can actually get that part separately and replace just that electrical portion. That, from what I understand, fixes about 80 to 90% of them. It's not a repair we're going to be doing at the dealership, and I don't want to get into the full thing about why we wouldn't do that at the dealership, but basically if we do this repair at the dealership, we have to be able to warranty it not only at the dealership for 12 months, 12,000 miles, but we have to warranty this nationwide. So if someone had this repair done in New York, traveled to Colorado, Colorado dealership would be able to warranty that just like the dealership in New York would. And if you replace just that component, since it's not available from Volkswagen, they wouldn't be able to do that. So we've been putting on the entire compressor. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with replacing that. If it's fixing it, it's fixing it. And that's in no way, shape, or form knocking the aftermarket guys that are doing it. Tip my hat to you guys. It's awesome that you found it. It's great that you found a resource for those parts. Just one little tidbit about why you really wouldn't see that repair at the dealership. We got a few new recalls / updates that have come out. I know a few of you have been waiting anxiously about the MK7 GTI fuel pump recall. Apparently there was some bad metallurgy inside the fuel pump in the tank, and that could cause the fuel pump to fail. It is out, it is live. The great thing is it's only affecting 861 cars in North America, and I forget what the Canadian number was, but it really wasn't that many. I think it was less than 1,500 cars total. So odds are you don't have one of the GTIs that fell under the recall. But if you ever want to know, you can just call your local dealership and they'll be more than happy to look up your recall list by your VIN. Also, just minutes ago, I was looking up what the number for that GTI recall, which by the way is the 20W5, I found out that there's also a recall / update on the 2015 Tiguan that especially caught my attention, as there's one sitting out in my driveway now. And it's really a basic thing. It looked like it was some mislabeling on a safety label. Nothing to worry about, no problem. Hell, if I didn't work there, I would ask them just to mail me the label so I could install it myself. Again, if you're not sure if your vehicle has an open recall, the best thing to do is to get your VIN and call your local dealership and have them check for you. We've also been doing a ton of software updates on lot cars. These have been primarily diesels, the 3rd generation, and some of the older common rail ones that are still on the lot are getting ECM software updates. It seems that the NHTSA has been putting a lot of pressure on manufacturers as well as dealerships to make sure that there's no open campaigns or recalls on new cars before they're sold. It seems that there's been places that have gotten fined or threats of fines because they're selling vehicles with open campaigns. My gut says that some of this is resulting from this whole big airbag / ignition switch / other recalls that manufacturers are having. And they want to make sure that new cars aren't being sold with these campaigns open. I also got 3 new guys that have just started. 2 of them are from NTI in Charlotte, and one is a former tow truck driver. I think this guy that was a former tow truck driver is going to be a top-notch addition to the shop. Once he gets his feet wet, he's already quite a bit better than some of the other Service Express people that we have. He's been running the Service Express for the past week and a half. Razor sharp dude. I like him a lot. Great attitude. You know, just wants to come in, work hard, learn how to fix the cars. It's basically exactly what you want out of either a new technician or a new Service Express. He's the perfect candidate for it. So I'm really excited to see where he winds up in the next few months. I think it'll be a pretty good spot for him, and I'm really excited to have him on board. The other 2 guys are both fresh out of NTI. One actually starts next week. The other one's been there about a week. Again, great attitudes. You know, it's so refreshing to have someone new in the shop, especially, you know, UTI and NTI, they get a bad rap for not teaching this, or guys aren't learning that, or, you know, they're just whipping guys in and out of the school just to collect their money, whatever the nonsense that you hear. Some of it's true, some of it's not, some of it's perception, some of it's based on the individual coming out of the school. You know, you can't categorize all of them as lazy and stupid. Most of them are just plain inexperienced, but it's great when you find a couple of guys that are ready to come in, they want to work hard, they want to learn, they're excited, they have a good attitude that really does tend to energize the shop a little bit. And some of the guys that have been around a while, you know, that are kind of stuck in a rut, it helps them get out of it because they really want to see these guys do well and have good technicians working alongside of them. Hell, I did a whole show about mentoring the next generation of technicians. I'll throw a link in the show notes if you want to hear more about that, where we look at more of what it's like having a new guy from a mentorship standpoint rather than just a new guy standpoint. So pretty cool show. I'm pretty proud of the way that one turned out. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys if you want to check that out. On the note of having new guys in the shop, the reason we're hiring so many is we have been crazy busy. I don't remember in the 11 years that I've worked there that we've been as far behind as we have. I mean, guys are coming in on their day off. We're having to pay bonuses to get guys to come in and make extra money. And it's not like they're coming in and doing junk work. They're coming in to do really good work. and can make a great, extra day's worth of pay. It's just hard. We're so far behind. Every time I feel like we get a little bit caught up, we get a whole slew of tow-ins or broken Mark 7 GTIs. I got a fuel system waiting for me when I get back to the shop tomorrow that needs to get done. That's been sitting for longer than I feel comfortable with. So we've been crazy busy. I'm not sure what happened. A lot of it is these recalls that have been out. The rear axle recall we're still seeing a fair amount of. It's summertime, so a lot of people are getting their car worked on. Fuel prices are down, so people are traveling more. The economy is doing pretty well, so people have a little bit more income to spend on maintaining their vehicle. Plus, Volkswagen, other than the Golf and the GTI, hasn't really come out with anything new and exciting. There was a facelift on the 15 Jetta, but that's about it. Hopefully next year, in the next 2 years, we'll start to see some new models and some facelifts and some redesigns, things to get people excited about buying a new Volkswagen again. Although, I won't complain about people bringing their older Volkswagens in to get serviced. But like I said, we've just been so busy that it's almost to the point where it's bad, where the guys are working their butts off, and I appreciate the hell out of them for working so hard, but you get to the point where you're so busy that you have to worry about making mistakes, and mistakes get made, and drain plugs don't get tightened, and oil filters don't get installed properly, or pollen filters don't get put in, or you miss a brake job because you got one waiter in your bay, you got 3 more waiters behind there, and 4 more coming in, and pages are going off over the intercom with advisors paging you for more waiters. So it's not an ideal situation. We're working really hard to get out from under it and get back on track. But with the addition of these couple of new guys and a really good guy in Service Express, I think we're going to be able to pull it out here pretty soon and sort of right the ship a little bit. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, as always, post it in the comments section below. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I really do always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at HumbleMechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Ever since my wife stopped working at the beer store, I've had to